Alrighty, welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main math man, Mr. Shank, coming to you live from Walker Grant Middle School. And we're in a new quarter. Throw out your fours, because we're in the fourth quarter, and now it's crunch time. As if it wasn't already, but we always lock up for that last quarter. So, we are transitioning from our Pythagorean theorem into composite figures, into composite shapes. And as a quick refresher, I want to go over some fifth grade stuff. So, are you smarter than a fifth grader? So, let's remember, what is perimeter? Well, it is the distance. It is the distance around the outside of a shape. And so when you are looking at this, again, you can kind of anticipate our units. Our units will be to the first power, because again, you're just drawing a line around the outside of a shape. Okay, so when you're thinking about whatever shape it may be, let's draw a nice perfect square that is perfectly drawn, and you're thinking about just that line that I drew. Okay, you're saying, okay, what is that distance around that shape? And so that whatever that amount is, it would be, let's say, x units. And it wouldn't be to the second power or third power or anything like that. It would just be to the first power. All right, and so it says, well, how do we find that? Real simple. We add up all the sides. Okay, you guys have done this before. You've been in fifth grade, but we're always making sure that we're all on the same page. So in that, you want to make sure also that you can maybe use a formula. So again, a formula, it's an equation. It's an equation that assists or helps us with solving a problem. Again, you want to use your problem-solving skills to the best of your ability, but you always want to use the resources that are around you. So when it helps us with solving problems when given variables when the variables are defined. Meaning, if I knew what this side length would be, I'd be able to figure out what this would be. So, as an example, like a little bit clearer of an example, we always want to make sure that, hey, let's do a first example. Oh man, that's a right triangle. And how do we know that? Again, we have our right angle in the bottom corner. Opposite of that is, yep, you guessed it, it's hypotenuse. But are we using this at all? Not quite. So we don't really need this right now, but it's always good to refresh. And so we have, we can say that P is going to be equal to the perimeter, and we're saying, okay, what are the side lengths? So we're adding the side lengths. And what I want you to get used to doing is this. Get used to either highlighting with whatever highlighter or colored pencil you may have those side lengths. So I'm going to have 5, 12, and 13. Again, doing some quick math, we're going to do 5 plus 13 is 18, plus 12 is going to be 30. And so always label, so be sure to label your answer. And so we're going to say the perimeter is going to be 30, and then what's our label? It's going to be 30 feet. Okay. And so now, again, that's a real simple one. Quick math. moving on. Alright, so now for this bottom one, however, what kind of shape is that? Well, you want to be able to identify what kind of shape. So it has four right angles and 2 sets of parallel sides. So we know that's a rectangle. This is a rectangle. And personally, I just like adding up the sides, but if you are desperate for your formula, go for it. So we have a formula. Again, this is going to be perimeter is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Again, you can decide what those are, plug in your values, and so we can say if this is L and this is W, we can say that perimeter is equal to 2 times, well, what's L? L is 3, and then 2 times 4. Again, just like we've done before, we have 6, and then we have 8. Perimeter equals 14, and then inches. So that's one way of doing it. Well, what about our other way, where we just real simply add up all the sides? Let's double check. Oh, what happens now? So, alright, let's highlight, I have 3, and I have 4, and what about, what do I do? These sides don't have numbers on them. Did I forget to type them, or am I going to panic? No, never. You're going to use your intuition, or you're going to use your logic to get you out of a situation. So we know that these side lengths are equal, so we can say this is also 4 inches and this is also 3 inches. And so very simply we can do our quick math. 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 is going to be equal to, yep, you guessed it, 14 inches. Again, that is our perimeter. Either way, it works as long as we get to the same answer. On the back, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So, always starting off with those word problems. And so it says to the left, again, that's that way, in case we're lost. It says, is an aerial view. I do remember this word from last year. Some people, they got messed up. Let's check what's aerial. I don't know what that means. It means a top-down view. Let's say view. And we're saying, maybe think of a bird's eye view. All right. So now, if you have an aerial view of James Monroe High School, find the perimeter of the school. And so, again, what you're going to have to do now is you're going to have to kind of break apart and make sure that you have, so again, here's the steps. Make sure all sides are labeled. All sides are labeled. Let's make that an L, so that way we know we're correct. Are labeled. Alright, so now when you go to do this, let's see, I learned this trick, that's not true. I learned this math magician technique, I should say, this illusion of finding perimeter a nice way. Mr. Wilcox, right down the hall, taught me this. He said, hey, Shank, just highlight this one side and you know for sure that's going to be 60 feet. And I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. And I said, hey, if you were to picture this same side over here, it should also be 60 feet. So he said, why don't you highlight the same color, those vertical values. So he said, okay, you know that this one is 15, this one is 14, and well, that means we have an X right there. And I used my intuition. I said, well, Mr. Wilcox, what are we going to do? Well, I think we're going to set up an equation. He said, holy smoke, Shank, you're on a roll. So let's get our value for this. So again, the blue sides are equal. So that means we can set up an equation or equal, and so we can say 60 is going to be equal to 15 plus x plus 14. Combine our like terms. We have 60 equals 29 plus x, inverse operation to get to isolate the variable, and so we have that 31 is going to be equal to x. Alright, so that means that this side here is 31 feet. Okay? Is this the perimeter? No, not yet, not quite. Now, what else do we need? Well, he also said, well, that's only part of the perimeter. So when you're circling that school, you're taking a lap around the school, you have to make sure you go the whole way around. So he said, hey, don't forget this other side. That's going to be 40. And he said that this horizontal value is going to be equal to 15 plus 11 and plus this other value. Why don't we say that's a y? It doesn't matter. Pick a variable. You're solving for it. Again, the same setup. Let's say it right here. So red sides are equal, and so we put those together, and so we have 40 is going to be equal to 11 plus 15 plus y. Very simply, we're going to have y equals, well, 26 and then 14. All right. So it's going to be 14 feet. And so now that we have all our sides, again, this is not our answer, so please do not circle it. To find perimeter, add up all the sides. So we have perimeter is going to be equal to, well, let's make this a little bit simpler. Maybe you want to do it going down. That way it's a little bit easier to add for yourself. So if you want to, that's totally fine. I kind of like that as well. So let's do this right here. Let's do 40. And this is another strategy. He said, let's star at the start. Star the start and work clockwise, meaning around like a clock. All right, so at the start, I have 40. Now I have 14, 15, 31, 11, 15. Do not skip any numbers. 14 and 60. Again, I'm adding those up all together. And real quick math, this is going to be perimeter is equal to 200 feet. Using this strategy, what you should do at this point, please try this. Use a highlighter. Use highlighter to let's actually spell that right. Highlighter to be able to maybe find any missing sides, or at least help break down this part.